Hey Bears fans, DeWitt and Nicholas Moreano here. We are continuing our Making the Case series for the Chicago Bears entering the 2023 NFL Draft. Before we get to today's player, I just want to make sure you know that you better subscribe to this channel and leave this video a thumbs up. I don't want you to miss any of our awesome Bears content all off-season long, but let's get into today's player. And Nick, who are we talking about today?
We're talking about Northwestern defensive lineman Adetomiwa Adebawore.
Adebawore.
Got to make sure you pronounce it
That's
that way,
right.
guys.
But he had 38 tackles, 9 for loss, and 5 sacks last year, 45th on PFF's top 150, 84th on mock draft database. And what I like about him, there's a lot, but like one of the big ones is his ability just to recognize different block combinations coming his way that allows him to kind of maintain gap integrity and also establishing something the Bears couldn't do last year, which is gap control.
Yeah, they definitely couldn't do that, Will. I'll say this, Adetomiwa made himself some money at those Senior Bowl practices because he showed that he can beat some of the better offensive linemen there, especially in the one-on-one drills. And I think what you see on film when you watch Northwestern tape is just the play strength that he has. Showed that consistently at the Senior Bowl, and I was surprised by him. I didn't know much about him going into this, but he kept consistently beating some of these offensive linemen like Cody Mauch, and it was like, all right, now you have to take note of who he is as a player and what he can be capable of.
Yeah, Adebawore, like the one other thing that I like, I mentioned, the ability to recognize blocks. You mentioned the strength. I think another element of his game that's worth noting is his short area quickness and burst, too, that allows him to get inside of the pocket and become a disruptor, too. So he has quickness, he has strength. He also has, of course, we know like the IQ. And the other one knock, though, is like the smaller frame that he does have. I know that's been something that I've seen a few people be concerned about. But what I saw, and which I think is a plus, is that he kind of knows how to like counter that with leverage. And leverage is important in football. We know that. And I think Adetomiwa does a great job of like getting good leverage most of the time.
He uses the leverage, but he also uses like those quick, fast hands to, again, get offensive linemen off of him. But kind of going to the drawbacks of his game, you mentioned his frame. He also doesn't have as much bend that you would like to see out of some other defensive linemen, so that can maybe inhibit what he's capable of doing at the next level. He obviously has play strength, but I think a big question is, like, where does he exactly fit on this defensive line? He's almost like that tweener. He plays bigger than what he actually is, but still, that is a question when it comes to Adebawore, where exactly he fits.
Right, because at Northwestern, I think he was a 5 tech, but in Chicago, would he be a 3? Is he more of a 1, which even a 1, the size to me gets even a little bit more of a concern. So I do think that I guess the uncertainty of where he fits would be a big concern. And just another thing I saw was like finishing skills. There were times where he left tackles for loss and sacks on the table with the inability to finish. So he will need to work on that, and that should allow his production to go up here at the next level.
Yeah, well, and now trying to, again, why does this make sense for the Bears? And I think anytime you can add a young, talented, and driven defensive lineman like this to be a part of a unit, I think that's a plus to what he can provide for the Bears. I don't see him being a huge standout in the NFL, but as a role player, a complementary piece to a defensive line that has other guys, that gets me excited because, like I said, I didn't know much about him at the Senior Bowl, but he consistently showed up, and I really like that about him.
You hit it. The Bears just need guys up front, and I'm going to go back to like one of the very first strengths as a reason to bring him into Chicago, and that's his ability to maintain gap control. Just think about that Bears run defense last year and how many times those defensive linemen were getting displaced, pushed off their marks, and opening up the C right down the middle of the field. He would definitely help with that, and that should make life easier for linebackers too. So there are a few different reasons why he makes a lot of sense coming here to Chicago. But that's going to do it for today's Making the Case video. Again, subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss any of our Bears content all off season long.